My wife's college crush has come back. She's recklessly determined to be with him. She says, I don't want to live childless. I want to have a baby with him. What she doesn't know is that the one who can't have children isn't me, it's her. She doesn't even know that her crush, who has returned from France, is a gambling addict, only interested in using her money to pay off his debts. I know that my wife, Anna Smith, has been harboring an unrequited crush for many years on a man she could never have. She was always open about it, even showing me old photos of the two of them together. But she'd always say, it's all in the past. George Miller, you're the one I love now. But right now, as I stare at the photo on my phone, things feel different. It was taken by a friend at a couple's restaurant. There's my wife, Anna Smith, having dinner with a man who looks strikingly handsome. The lighting is soft and romantic, and there are roses on the table. Anna's back is to me, so I can't see her face. But the man sitting across from her is gazing at her with such tender affection, mixed with a hint of regret. My heart drops. And just like that, I feel like I've fallen into an ice-cold pit. This man is so familiar. Though he looks more polished and refined now, he's unmistakably Henry, Anna's classmate from high school and college. Anna had been in love with him for 6 years, and when Henry graduated, she finally gathered the courage to confess. But he rejected her. He gently patted her head and said, I'm leaving for France. I can't let you wait for me. Anna was a wreck for days. She walked across the street without paying attention to the traffic lights, and I ran into her on my bike. She fell to the ground and couldn't get up. So I rushed her to the hospital in a panic. The emergency doctor gave us a cold look and pointed at the scrape on Anna's shin, saying, you were lucky we got her in fast, another minute and it would have gotten infected. We exchanged social media accounts and gradually became closer. I'll admit, I was drawn to her from the first moment I saw her. I was completely taken by her, and I pulled out all the stops to win her over, relentlessly pursuing her for 6 months. On her birthday, I confessed my feelings, and she said yes. Later, I learned the reason behind her heartbreak. And my feelings for her only deepened. Such a devoted woman, to be with her felt like a stroke of fate. I pulled her into my arms, kissed her neck, and whispered, Anna, marry me. I'll always protect you and make sure you're never hurt. She paused for a moment, then softly replied, okay. Now, I can't help but laugh at the younger version of myself. All those years of togetherness, and it still couldn't measure up to her feelings for that crush. I calmed myself down and thought maybe it was just that Henry had returned to the country. And they were simply catching up as old friends. I even scolded myself for doubting my wife over a single photo. After all, over the years, we've been through thick and thin together. She's been by my side through so much. After graduation, I started from scratch, building a business. At the beginning, I worked myself to the bone, wishing I could turn into a robot and never need rest. Anna felt for me and helped me pack orders and send out shipments in the cramped warehouse. Her delicate hands were covered in tape residue. And her skin was marked with dirt. I felt even more heartbroken for her, vowing to treat her even better. She's picky about food, so takeout was often a struggle. In between packing, I'd cook for her. I'd even track her cycle and prepare ginger tea with brown sugar in advance, just so I could cuddle her and keep her warm. When my first business failed, she never blamed me. Instead, she encouraged me to pick myself up and try again. It was her unwavering support that reminded me I couldn't give up. I didn't care about being alone. But I couldn't let her suffer with me. I waited for the right moment and founded an MCN agency, signing a few new influencers. There were times when I'd have to stay up for several days straight, monitoring live streams, reviewing data, and adjusting strategies. When I was exhausted, I'd crash in the cluttered live stream studio, sleeping on the floor. Luckily, I caught a break and helped a few channels gain significant popularity, earning a small profit. I used that money to expand into more investments. And we were finally able to live the kind of life we had dreamed of. She said she wanted to grow flowers, so I bought a large house on the outskirts. I filled the garden with her favorite roses and daisies. Though we'd been married for nearly 7 years and had no children due to some personal reasons, I had no regrets. Whenever our parents brought it up, I'd calmly tell them, Anna and I are child-free. We don't like kids. They argued with me for 2 years, but once they saw my resolve, they finally relented, saying, fine, it's your choice. But you'll regret it one day. I just smile and shake my head. Life's too short to be greedy. Finding true love is already rare enough. I'd spoil her, cherish her, and love her for life. But only if she loves me. I leaned against the balcony railing, staring up at the bright moon, one cigarette after another. Anna didn't get home until late that night. When she saw me step out from the dark balcony, she was startled and furrowed her brow. "Why aren't you in bed? It's full of smoke." She hated the smell of smoke on me. Most of the time, I kept my cravings in check. Sneaking a few puffs when the pressure became too much, then discarding the cigarette when she wasn't around. As a result, she hadn't smelled smoke on me in years. I shoved my trembling hands into my coat pockets. "Who were you with tonight?" I decided to get straight to the point. If she was cheating, I wouldn't waste any time. If it was just a casual meeting with a friend, I'd apologize for my suspicion. She paused for a moment, but then answered honestly, "Why are you asking this all of a sudden?" "I met up with Henry. He just got back to the country. He heard about our MCN business and wanted to meet to ask about the market." I breathed a sigh of relief. She wasn't hiding anything, so it really was just a simple meetup. Anna looked at me suspiciously. "You knew I met Henry?" I forced a smile and said, "A friend was at the restaurant and saw you." "I'm sorry, Anna. I shouldn't have doubted you." Anna seemed to understand my thoughts. "Henry's doing research, and one of his current projects is related to our work. So he wanted to learn more about the industry. Don't overthink it." Though I still wanted to ask her why they were at a couple's restaurant, and what the look in Henry's eyes was all about, Anna was so calm that I didn't press further. Instead, I swallowed my questions down. For our wedding anniversary, I had made a reservation 3 months in advance. It was at a sky-high restaurant she had mentioned 6 months ago, one that was quite popular on social media. The atmosphere looked great, but it was notoriously difficult to get a table. I'd made a note of it, planning to bring her here today. But lately, Anna had been distracted. She'd even forgotten that today was our anniversary. It wasn't until I handed her the Bulgari Serpenti bracelet that she looked up, puzzled. "Why are you giving me a gift?" I was taken aback. "Today is our 7th wedding anniversary. Anna, you don't seem yourself lately. Is something wrong?" She shook her head, her eyes avoiding mine. But she was definitely acting strange. When it came time to cut the steak, she even forgot to use a fork, pressing down on the steak with her hands. About to cut into it with the knife. I quickly stopped her, and she startled, throwing the knife aside. Her eyes were unfocused as she mumbled, "Sorry, George Miller. I haven't been sleeping well, I'm feeling a little dizzy. I'm not eating anymore. I'll head home to rest." I insisted on taking her home, but she refused. "There's so much to do at the office. You go ahead, I'll grab a cab." I couldn't argue with her, so I said, "Just text me when you're home, okay? Get some sleep." She nodded. I passed a traffic light but couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. So I turned around to follow her. I saw a man bending over to open the car door for her, then getting into the back seat with her. It was Henry. I gripped the steering wheel tightly and cautiously followed them. Clearly, Anna wasn't heading home. They stopped near the university gates, and Henry casually helped her out of the car, guiding her down. Anna was shy, her head lowered, a smile playing at the corner of her lips. I hadn't seen her smile like that in a long time. And it hurt. So this was where they were going, back to relive their fond memories from college. I parked a distance away and followed them on foot. They walked side by side in perfect harmony, their shoulders occasionally brushing against each other. Henry stopped, turned to face Anna, and said something to her. Then he pulled her into an embrace. Anna stood frozen for a moment, but then she slowly wrapped her arms around him. They hugged tightly, like lovers who hadn't seen each other in years. Anna stood on tiptoe and gently kissed Henry. And he kissed her back with an intensity that took my breath away. The pain was real. A sharp ache surged up in my throat. I bent over, clutching a tree trunk for support, and retched. Why? The woman I had loved for so many years, after just 1 week with Henry, was ready to throw herself into his arms. She would rather break the heart of the me she wouldn't even pretend to love me on our wedding anniversary. All these years of cherishing her, holding her at the center of my world, had turned into a cruel joke. My heart felt hollow. As if a piece of it had been ripped out. I forced a bitter smile at myself. I stood up, turned away, and left without looking back at them. The scene replayed in a painfully familiar way. When Anna returned home, she was taken aback. "Aren't you going to the office?" I raised my eyes lazily to look at her, holding a cigarette in my hand. "Aren't you the one who didn't come home?" She waved her hand, as if to push away the smoke. Why are you smoking again? It stinks. I forced a smile, fighting back the pain in my chest. Because someone's back. It's always interesting to see old friends. How does it feel? She froze for a moment, then exploded. You've been following me? I didn't want to explain. She laughed bitterly. All right, George Miller. After all these years, you've finally shown your true colors. I frowned. What do you mean? You just don't trust me. On the surface, you act like you don't care about me having feelings for Henry, but deep down, it bothers you, doesn't it? First, it was the spying, then it was the stalking. What's next? Are you going to tie me up and stop me from seeing him? I shook my head. Anna, what exactly are you afraid I'll find out? Did you hug him? Or, has it gone further? Her face changed, and she raised her hand to slap me. I caught her arm. Anna, out of respect for the past, I'll give you one more chance. Cut ties with him. Let's go back to the way things were, or, you can be with Henry, but you'll never see a penny of my money. She looked at me in disbelief. George, I really misjudged you. You're truly despicable, wanting to keep me penniless. I'll admit. I was only doing this to force her into making a choice, to bring her back to this home. But she conveniently ignored my first option. I bitterly smiled to myself, realizing how little I meant to her. As soon as Henry appeared, I was nothing more than dust swept away by the wind. Anna, did I force you to divorce me? George Miller. Even if you manage to keep my body, you'll never keep my heart. She shot me a venomous glare, grabbed her bag, and stormed into the bedroom, locking me out. She didn't realize that during our argument, a small listening device had been slipped into her favorite bag. I'm a man, and I don't believe that after 8 years abroad, a man who has seen countless women would suddenly return to chase after a woman he once ignored. I don't believe for a second that it's because of some noble love story. Besides, I'd already done some digging into Anna's old classmates. Henry might be handsome, but he was a real player. He'd cycle through girlfriends while dating other women on the side. He'd even told them that he didn't actually like his current girlfriend, but that they'd touched his heart. And he couldn't say no. Anna once dreamed of being the one to move Henry, but sadly, she never got the chance before he left for overseas. There's always a reason for strange behavior, and Henry's return surely has an agenda. I want to know how he managed to charm Anna. Ever since Anna openly started her affair, she's become bolder. She even stays out all night. Looks like she's been going to see Henry. I turned on the listening device. I caught just in time the intimate conversation between the two of them. I grabbed a watermelon from the fridge. Anna's voice rang out. Henry. Is this really true? I still can't believe you'd come back for me. Henry's voice was calm, yet magnetic. Anna, it's true. Back in high school, when you bumped into me like a little deer, I noticed you right away. I tried being with other people, but none of them made my heart race like when I first saw you. I was so foolish back then, not realizing we both felt the same way. We wasted so many years. I laughed. Not many people had earned my respect, but he barely qualified. Could Anna really be fooled by such a clumsy lie? Anna said dreamily. I didn't know you liked me either. I had a crush on you for 6 whole years, but you were so outstanding, surrounded by so many amazing people, I never dared to confess. Until you were about to graduate, that's when I finally gathered the courage. But you rejected me. Henry explained further. At the time, I was about to go abroad, uncertain about my future. I didn't want to ruin your happiness. Now that I see you're doing well, I feel at ease. Anna sighed. People can only understand their own heart. Although my life seems prosperous, inside, I feel empty. I don't love him. But he treats me well, and he cooks for me. I agreed to be with him the moment I felt moved. I have to work hard to keep up the image of the perfect wife, and I've just gotten used to it. Henry, no one understands the loneliness I feel inside, until you came back. My love for you has reignited. Henry, deeply moved, said, Anna, I'm going back to France soon. I want you to come with me. Anna burst into tears of joy. Really? We'll go to France together? Yes, Anna, and I want you to have children for me. Lots of children. Anna's voice was filled with happiness and contentment. That's wonderful, Henry. We'll have our own babies, how great. I spat out the watermelon. Off-season fruit really tastes bad. A wave of nausea hit me. I tossed the watermelon into the trash and tried to light a cigarette, but the lighter wouldn't catch. It turned out my hand was shaking. Hearing the woman I've loved for nearly 8 years say she's never loved me, and is eagerly willing to have children with her lover, is not a pleasant experience. All those years of devotion have turned into a cruel joke. A drop of liquid fell on my hand, and I froze. It was a tear. I laughed and cried at the same time, letting my sleeve get soaked. On the other end of the listening device, Anna's voice had been silent for a while. She must have gone to shower. I could already guess what they would be doing next. Just as I was about to turn off the device, Henry's phone rang. "Hey, didn't I tell you not to rush me? It's almost in my hands, why are you in such a hurry? You still think I won't go back? We agreed that I will pay you back in cash when the time comes." Henry gritted his teeth, speaking in French. I was utterly confused but recorded the conversation and played it for my French friend, Marcus. After translating, he looked shocked. "George, I told you to just focus on your work and stay out of illegal stuff." I was equally stunned. This phone call was packed with information. I said, "Don't worry, I obey the law, pay my taxes, and never even come close to breaking the rules. But I do need to ask you for a favor. Could you use your vast social network to help me look into someone?" Marcus slapped his chest. "No problem." I squinted. "Henry, I thought you were just a regular scumbag. Turns out I underestimated you. You're not just a sleazeball, but a criminal." It seems Henry's targeting my assets, planning to convince Anna to divorce me and split my fortune to pay off his debts. I snorted. "Anna, the man you've loved for so many years never even looked at you seriously. He's only interested in your money. To him, you're just a tool to steal wealth. But unfortunately, Henry's plan will fail. He's met me." Marcus sent me a message with the information, and as he passed the files, he couldn't help but comment, "He really is a scumbag." I opened the 15-page file, filled with various texts and photos about Henry. After finishing, I slammed my laptop shut. A scumbag. Not only did he get his friend's girlfriend pregnant, but he also racked up gambling debts at casinos. To pay off those debts, he even colluded with the casino. But his gambling addiction was relentless. And the interest just kept piling up. He needed to score big. In the midst of all this, he stumbled upon Anna's social media. Anna had posted about a new Porsche she had just bought. Anna? Henry stared at the name. The memories slowly returned, and he remembered the woman who had chased after him for 6 years. Now she was this wealthy? A vicious plan immediately began to take shape in his mind. Henry swore, giving himself a month to come back with the money. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. If Anna really goes with him, things will end terribly for her. The warm memories of the past flashed before me, but they were shattered by that sharp remark, "I don't love him." I called Anna, trying to remain calm as I asked her to meet. "I want to talk again about the divorce." She hadn't come home in days, and the listening device had run out of battery. It was time for a new one. The next day, she came as promised. After entering, she crossed her arms, casting me a cold look. "What's left to talk about? Do you still want to try and keep me? Would it even make a difference if I tried to stop you now?" "George. Haven't I told you? I'm done. I don't want to keep deceiving myself." "Anna, what if I told you Henry's a liar? He doesn't love you, he's just after the wealth you and I have." "Anna, out of respect for the 7 years we spent together, I'm giving you one last chance. I've done everything I could." Her face changed, and she shouted sharply, "George, don't slander him. If you can't keep me, is this all you can do, make up such vicious lies?" She couldn't believe her sweet, gentle Henry could be a liar. "You think everyone is like you, obsessed with money? Henry's been doing academic research abroad. He's a man with dreams, unlike you, full of the stench of commerce. I worked tirelessly to support our family, giving my best so we could live comfortably. But to her, I was nothing but a foul-smelling businessman. Anna, you don't care about money, right? Then fine, you can forget about the assets." But she wasn't happy with that. "Why should I? I've been married to you for so many years. I deserve half of it." Anna seemed to remember something, and a malicious smile spread across her face. "George, I want half of the assets. Otherwise, I'll tell everyone you're infertile." I couldn't help but smile bitterly. We did undergo fertility tests before marriage. I was the one who picked up the report. When I saw the results, I fell into deep thought. I didn't show Anna the report but gently asked if she'd be okay with living child-free. Anna, although disappointed, thought it over and said she was still young and didn't want to think about children just yet. She thought the issue was with me, that I had fertility problems. I never explained otherwise. And we told people that we decided to live a child-free life. But the truth was, Anna was the one who had fertility issues. I had asked the doctor about in vitro fertilization, and was told that the success rate was low and that the process would cause her pain from egg retrieval. Both of our families were quite traditional, and if they knew about her infertility, it would bring a lot of pressure and judgment on her. I didn't want the woman I loved to suffer. So I kept that secret to myself, never telling anyone. But now, that secret had turned into her weapon to criticize and even blackmail me. I sneered. Anna, you can spread that lie around, but in the end, it won't be me who gets hurt. Like I said, if you want a divorce, you can forget about the money. Otherwise, no deal. Fuming with anger, she stormed off. That evening, Anna and Henry must have discussed things at length. The next day, she went to visit my parents. When I arrived, she was sitting there, tears streaming down her face, looking pitiful as she wiped away her tears. My parents were standing by, unsure of what to do. When they saw me, they immediately grabbed me, asking, "George, what's going on? Did you bully Anna?" "It's fine. I'll handle this." Just then, Anna's parents barged in, furious. It seemed she'd brought reinforcements, which was fine. Let them witness everything. "George, I hear you two are getting divorced. What's going on?" I remained composed. "Yes, your daughter cheated on me. Our relationship broke down, and we're getting a divorce." Anna immediately retorted loudly, "I didn't. How dare you accuse me of cheating? I just went out to dinner with an old classmate, and you had an episode of jealousy. Accusing me of cheating and even following me. Can't you see how terrifying a man like that is? Unbelievable." She had no shame at all. She was relying on the fact that I only had vague photos to back up her lies. "Mom!" Anna wailed, throwing herself into her mother's arms. "I really want a child, but George can't have children. I want a divorce, but he won't let me, and now he's spreading rumors that I cheated." My parents were stunned, their faces turning pale. No wonder I never wanted children, turns out it was because of my infertility. They had suspected this possibility before. But now that Anna had said it aloud, they felt guilty and thought they had wronged the Smiths. Mrs. Smith put her hands on her hips and scolded me harshly, "So that's it, George. I always wondered why you didn't want kids. You can't have children, and you've wasted Anna's best years. She's already 30, and you've been holding her back. Do you intend to ruin her life?" "Exactly, George. You're being selfish." Mr. Smith chimed in. "A man who can't even have children is nothing." Mrs. Smith spat. Anna looked at me smugly. "George, let's divorce. And because you're infertile and have prevented me from having children, I'm not only going to split the assets, but I also want compensation for the emotional damage you've caused me." I had already overheard Anna and Henry's conversation yesterday, so I knew she'd come to stir things up with my parents today. "Anna, I once loved you. I was willing to bear all your doubts and insults, but things are different now. Open your eyes and see who the real problem is." Calmly, I pulled out the materials I had prepared and threw them in her face. Anna angrily slapped the materials away. Then picked up one sheet. She froze. It was a hotel booking record with Henry's name on it. That hotel was owned by a friend of mine, so getting the records was easy. There were even screenshots from the hotel's lobby and hallway surveillance cameras. They were hugging each other intimately, and at the door of the room, they were already kissing passionately. It was easy to guess what happened once they got inside. Mrs. Smith also picked up a stack of papers. She glanced at them, her face changing. She tried to rip them up in a hurry. But my mother stopped her. My mother snatched the report away, skimmed it, then sneered. "Anna, you're the one who's infertile. My son has been willing to suffer all these years for you, and now I still don't have a grandchild. You're a cold-hearted wretch." My mother crumpled the report and picked up the photos again, hurling them at Anna's face. She grabbed Anna by the hair and slapped her hard. "Shameless woman. How dare you go around messing around like this? Slut." Anna screamed, "Help me. Ah. It hurts." Mrs. Smith tried to intervene. But Mr. Smith sighed and stopped her. Let Mrs. Miller vent. Anna deserves it. After all, the inheritance hadn't been divided yet, and Mr. Smith wisely chose to step back. I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. I used to worry so much about Anna being scolded by my parents, but now, seeing her in such a miserable state, I actually felt a little bit of satisfaction. I was really disappointed. I had fallen out of love. When a man no longer loves someone, all that's left is endless indifference. Anna walked out, clutching her swollen face. My mother, still fuming, cursed for a while before turning to me and saying, "George, don't let that bitch get away with it." I nodded. "Don't worry, Mom. I won't give her a penny." I sent her a message. "I won't back down, Anna. I'll see you in court." Anna didn't reply. I smirked inwardly. Divorce cases drag on for months. If you can wait that long, Henry certainly can't. Anna first went to the hospital, and it wasn't until evening that she checked into another hotel to meet Henry. When Henry saw the bruises on her face, he was shocked. Anna stammered, saying that the evidence of their affair had been caught and that she had been beaten by my mother-in-law. But she didn't mention her infertility. Seems she was still dreaming of running away with Henry. Henry immediately asked, "Do they know who I am?" Anna truthfully replied, "George knows you, but they haven't dug into it." Henry sighed in relief. Anna then told him that I insisted on filing for divorce, and Henry couldn't sit still. He slammed the table, startling Anna, who timidly asked, "Henry, what's wrong?" Henry, realizing he had lost control, quickly reassured her, "Anna, I'm fine. I'm just angry. George is heartless. How could he disregard your years of marriage like that?" Anna, in a low voice, sobbed, "Then what do we do now? Does this mean we have to go to court?" After a long pause, Henry said, "Anna, I want to get you out of that scumbag's life as soon as possible. I'll take you to France. I have a plan, and I need your cooperation. Do you trust me?" "Of course I trust you." Henry slowly revealed his scheme. Anna, trembling, asked, Isn't this illegal?" "Anna, do you still have feelings for him? Or are you saying you don't want to be with me?" "Of course, I only love you." "Fine, I'll do it." When I returned home from the office, I saw Anna busy in the kitchen, wearing an apron. "Anna, what are you doing here?" I pretended to be shocked, playing along. She gave me a soft smile, then quickly bit her lip. "I've been thinking, George, I was wrong. I don't want a divorce anymore. I made a big spread of food just for you. Will you forgive me?" I grinned like an obedient fool. "Anna, really? You've had a change of heart?" She frowned in disgust but quickly returned to normal, smiling as she said, "Yes, George. I've thought it over. I still love you. Aren't you mad that I told my parents about your infertility?" She flinched, but held it in. "It's fine, I made mistakes too. Let's forget about it. From now on, let's just move on." I smiled. "Great. I knew you'd come back to me." She led me to sit down, poured herself a drink, and then poured one for me, her fingers barely trembling. "George, I'll drink to us making up." She tried her best to maintain her smile. I nodded. "Of course, Anna. I'm so happy. So happy, in fact, that I dropped my fork." "Anna, could you pass me a new fork?" I gently asked her. She was clearly nervous, and as I sent her off to get it, she sighed with relief, rushing to the kitchen. When she came back, we raised our glasses again. She watched me drink mine in one go, then swallowed hers in a gulp. I stared into her eyes. "Anna, have you ever regretted it?" "What?" She didn't understand what I meant, but it didn't matter. A while later, she passed out drunk. I took her phone from her bag and unlocked it with her face. I opened Henry's chat. "Success. He's knocked out. Come over now." Henry arrived after hearing the news. When he walked into the room and saw me sitting at the dining table with my eyes wide open, he was startled. I weakly spoke, "Henry, so it's really you." Seeing my frail state, he was slightly reassured. "Looks like you recognize me." I gave a bitter smile. "Anna is so foolish, she actually followed your orders and drugged me." He also recalled Anna, quickly looking around warily. "Where's Anna? She must have run off. When I woke up, she was gone." "Useless thing," Henry sneered. "Henry, what do you want? Are you planning to kill me? It's your fault, you're so rich, and you married such a good wife." I trembled, begging him. Don't kill me. What do you want? Do you want Anna? Or do you want money? I'll give you whatever you want. Too bad time's running out. Otherwise, all your assets would be mine. But it's fine. I know you have a lot of cash. Give it all to me, or I'll kill you. I shivered in fear, but could only watch as he approached step by step. Powerless to resist. Don't worry, after I inject this, you won't die immediately. As long as the transfer goes through, I'll tell you where the antidote is after I leave. Henry opened his toolkit, grinning as he rolled up my sleeve. I smiled and immediately locked my arm around his throat. Henry, since you're so familiar with this, why don't you guess how I want you to die? He turned bright red under my grip, thrashing around, trying to break free, his legs kicking wildly. But he was too weak, unable to escape. I kicked a cigarette ashtray to the ground, and the bodyguard, who had been hiding in the house, rushed out after hearing the signal. Henry's eyes widened in shock. I tossed him over, and the bodyguard quickly restrained him. I leisurely lit a cigarette and blew smoke at him. Henry, let's talk. He wore a resigned look. You already know I'm trying to kill you. What's there to talk about? I recorded everything you just said. I can call the police anytime, but I don't want to send you to prison just yet. Why? He looked puzzled, not believing I was showing mercy. I glanced at the framed photo of Anna and me by the entrance. Then opened a drawer and pulled out her passport and visa. She's loved you for so long. I want to make it up to her. Take her back to France. Henry laughed incredulously. Are you out of your mind? Henry, let me say it again. Go back, and I'll give you $2 million for the trip. Henry, if I were you, I wouldn't refuse. When he heard $2 million, his face turned pale. How do you know? $2 million was the amount he owed the casino. I smiled. I know a lot more. He glared at me, his eyes full of fury. I leaned in closer. Time's running out. Take her and leave. Or go to prison. Your choice. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he said with a strange look, You already know about my debt. Don't you know I want her to? I interrupted him. Shoo, don't say it. That's your business, not mine. After a moment, Henry let out a self-deprecating laugh. George, when it comes to cruelty, I can't match you. Transfer the money to the account I specify, and we'll leave today. I sat with the bodyguard nearby for a while, giving them ample time to escape. Henry easily coaxed the awakened Anna to leave with him. I had calculated that once Henry knew I had made up my mind to file for divorce, he would definitely act out of desperation, even resorting to scheming for money and murder. That's exactly what I wanted, him scheming for money and murder. At the brink of life and death, he might not even return to France. I was going to make sure he couldn't stay in the U.S. Therefore, he had to have some dirt on him. I would lead him into a corner, forcing him to go back. I'm a law-abiding citizen. And I will never get involved in any illegal activities. People like him should be dealt with by real criminals. During this time, I had a friend investigate Henry's connections over there, and I learned that his network was complicated, with many rival factions that didn't get along. Although Henry owed money to the casino, to outsiders, it still appeared like he worked for the casino. So, my friend leaked a little bit of information to a rival gang. Henry had been having an affair with someone's wife and extorting money from them. The gang leader, who had always despised Henry's dealings with the casino, was furious because his wife had just had an affair. He immediately led his men to take revenge on Henry. Just as Henry was withdrawing the money and approaching his doorstep, he was ambushed. They accused him of seducing their boss's wife. He was beaten so badly that he broke a leg, and the $2 million was taken from him. Later, the police arrived, and both Henry and Anna were arrested and thrown into prison. Anna lay on the prison bed. The pale moonlight streamed through the narrow iron bars, gently bathing her. Yet, she only felt a chilling cold. She began to miss the time she spent with me, but for some reason, her throat couldn't produce a full sound anymore. Ugh. George. Tears slid down her eyes, but she could never go back to the past, never see her former lover again.